Yo, what's up, everybody? It's your boy again, Dill Talk Sports. We're back with another episode. This episode's about NCAA football Week 14. Stay tuned tomorrow for Week 13 NFL recap. Sorry I didn't get those picks in. I was on vacation. Happy Thanksgiving to y'all. Hope everyone had a great time. But here we are. We'll recap Week 14 of the college football season. It was rivalry week, so big week for a lot of teams, big week for a lot of rivalries. You know, if you got any friends that like the opposite team, it's your time. So let's dive right back in. We're gonna run through this as quickly as possible. Disclaimer: I'm doing mostly top 25 and some of my favorite teams. The more teams you guys want, just let me know and I'll put them up and we'll discuss them further. So without further ado, let's run it down. So week 14. I'm just going in order here. I'm based on what I'm seeing on my list right here. So first we had SMU versus Cal. SMU. I'm an SMU grad. Go pony up, baby. Pony up. So that was never a question. You know, I said at the beginning of the season, you know, I love Preston Stone. He's a great kid, great guy. But Kevin Jennings was the right quarterback for that team. And as you can see, you know, they've been balling ever since he came in. And number 9 in the country now, one loss, BYU. Tough game early in the season. Lost by 3. So nothing to be worried about. But SMU 38-6. No questions really there. Let's look at stats. Kevin Jennings, 20 for 30, 225, 2 touchdowns. Brashard Smith's a baller. Brashard Smith all over the field, you know, slot, running back, receiver, whatever he can do. He's very versatile. He's a Swiss Army knife. So love that guy, you know, great attributes. And shout out my boy, shout out Ponies, you know, football, you know. Didn't have Coach Lashley, had Coach Sonny Dykes, but love to see what Lashley's doing there and keep balling out, boys. Kevin Jennings, shout out, bro. We used to play hoops together in the rec center. You're always a good kid, so glad to see you balling, brother. Keep going. Next game we got Michigan, Ohio State. I could have predicted that. Ohio State has been owned by Michigan ever since Urban Meyer left. Ryan Day, for all his good qualities of coach, he has some very glaring downfalls that we can see. He doesn't win the big game when we need him to. Ohio State, 10 points in a rivalry game against Michigan in a down year. What are you going to do when Michigan starts? You know, they reloaded. They got that decommitment from the LSU quarterback. Now he's coming to Michigan. So Ohio State's got a lot to work on. They have generational players at receiver every year. Generational quarterbacks a lot of the time. I'm not sure about Will Howard. I haven't watched enough of him to give you an opinion on him. But, you had C.J. Stroud, you had Justin Fields. So all the receivers, Garrett Wilson, Olave, all these kids, man. 10 points is unacceptable. I don't care if it's a rivalry game or not. At home against Michigan, you got to win that game. Next game we had is Tennessee Vanderbilt. Vanderbilt gave them a run for their money. You know, whoever the head coach is down there doing a great job. And Diego Pavia, you know, I used to watch you at New Mexico State, bro. You were balling. Glad to see him balling out. You know, they got a big win this year against Alabama, but Tennessee just ended up being too much for them. Kind of figures, you know, Tennessee's not a bad team. They're in the SEC. They have a couple losses, but that's the SEC. They play the hardest schedule, and that will kind of happen. So shout out Tennessee, Nico, freshman. One to watch the next few years, but let's keep pushing forward with the picks. South Carolina, Clemson. South Carolina surprised a lot of people. You know, they're 15th in the country with a win over Clemson, who's 12. You got to think they're going to make the playoff. Again, SEC bias. SEC's always kind of better, so we'll see what happens there, and we'll go from there. But I like South Carolina. I haven't watched much of them this year to tell you what they're doing, but Clemson's starting to come down to earth from when they were dominating with Deshaun and Trevor Lawrence. So we'll see what happens with Clemson. I know Dabo's been very outspoken about the transfer portal. Might be time to start using the transfer portal, buddy. That's all I'm going to say. Next game we have is Illinois Northwestern. Illinois, 10-point win over Northwestern. I guess that's a rivalry. Northwestern hasn't been much since Fitzgerald got fired. They're building a brand new stadium, beautiful stadium on Lake Michigan, so we'll see how that goes. But Illinois proved to be the better team, and they've been playing pretty good all year. BLM is doing a good job this year. So Illinois is going to, you know, they're probably not going to make the playoff, but they're a good team this year. Been playing pretty well. So next game, Penn State, Maryland. Not really something I expected. I don't think Penn State's as good as people think they are. But 44 points on any team, whether it's Little Sisters of the Poor or Maryland, is a good win. 44-7. Let's look at the stats on that one. Drew Aller, 17 for 26, 171, one touchdown. I just don't see a place where this is going to continuously get it done. They're probably going to be in the playoff. I'm hoping they could run into an SEC team or SMU gets them, and we'll see if they're really made of. They played who'd they play this year? They played Ohio State and they got blown out. So we'll see what happens there with that. But Penn State, they'll always be up there. They're a historic program, so can't hate on that. But we'll see how that goes. Next game we got is Notre Dame USC. This was actually a barn burner, 49-35. It ended up being a lot bigger of a split at the end of the game based on points. 14 points is a good amount. But if you watched a lot of the game, you could see USC was hanging around for a while. Unsure what's going on with USC. Lincoln Riley was left Oklahoma to supposedly be this savior of USC. But what is the record this year? 6-6 isn't going to get it done. I don't care who you are. You're USC. You should have the funding. You should have all the NIL. You should have the players that want to come there. Unsure what's going on. Notre Dame, I'm still not sold on Notre Dame. Never have been, never will be. They're always that team that's hyped up every year, and then they play a real team, SEC team, Big Ten team, they get blown out. So we'll see what happens with Notre Dame. They lost to Northern Illinois, but that can just happen. That's football. Any given Sunday, any given Saturday, I guess, for this case. But that's how we go with that. So next game we had is Miami-Syracuse. I've been saying all year, my buddy's a Miami fan. I'm just like, dude, they're not very good. Cam Ward, though, is the truth. I will give you Cam Ward is the truth. I like Cam Ward a lot. I like what he does. But that defense is really bad, man. And 42 points is unacceptable. They were number 6 in the country, 42-38. With the loss, we'll see what happens with the rankings. I don't know if they'll stay in the playoff. It's going to be tough because they're not even in the ACC championship game. That's going to be a good game against SMU and Clemson. But we'll see what happens there. That's just unacceptable to have that, a loss there and another loss to Georgia Tech. But, Georgia Tech's a good team. We saw that this weekend. They ate overtimes with Georgia. We're getting there, but that's a good team, so I can't hate that. Next game we got is Alabama-Auburn. Really no question here. Auburn was trying to win to get bowl eligible. Alabama won. Alabama's just a better team. I don't know if they're a better coach, but they're a better team. Saban brought in a lot of those kids that DeBoer has been coaching, so Saban's always been a winner, and he's been a great coach. So I don't know about Alabama. We'll see. I think they'll probably sneak into the playoffs just because they're Alabama and it's SEC. But I'm not sold on them. They have some big wins against Georgia per se when they blew them out, but they didn't have blown them out. Georgia came back in the second half and almost won that game. So I'm not sold yet on Alabama. I'll continue to watch and continue to see what's going on, but not really sold yet too much on them. But that's a good win for them. A rivalry game, you never know what could happen. So a win's a win, some say, and we'll see what happens there. Next game we got is Arizona State-Arizona. Arizona State didn't leave a doubt, 49-7. Arizona State's a good team. Scadaboo's a good running back. Unsure who the quarterback, but I know Dillingham is the head coach, and he's from Oregon. He's a good coach, and you're seeing this year with Arizona State. They're 16th in the country. Haven't again watched much of them, but 10-2. That's a good win-loss. Let's see who their loss there to. They beat BYU, who's a good team. They lost to Cincinnati, which is a tough loss. And they lost to Texas Tech early in the season. They beat Kansas, who was a game record the last couple weeks, beating CU and all these guys. So we'll see how Arizona State does. I don't know what Arizona State conference they're in anymore because all this conference alignment, man, I'm getting tired of it. It kind of ruined football. But, so that's another good win for Arizona State. Missouri, Arkansas. Missouri won by 7, 28-21. Again, didn't really watch that game. Haven't watched either teams very much this year. I know Arkansas is kind of game wreckers. They're not the best team, but they play good when they need to, and they get some wins when they need to. So don't hate that. Don't hate that win. Missouri's probably going to end up in a New York Six Bowl or New Year's Eve Six Bowl. So I know Brady Cook's there. He kind of embodies Missouri, but haven't watched enough of them to really give me an opinion. But it's a good win for Missouri, and we'll see what happens with them going forward. Indiana, Purdue, 66-0. Indiana really took out their frustration from last week against Ohio State on Purdue. Purdue really hasn't been the same since Jeff Brom. Shout out Jeff Brom. You coached my cousin at Western Kentucky, Brandon Lesson. You're a GOAT. Indiana, we'll see what happens with them. When they played Ohio State, they kind of came back down to earth and showed who they really are. But Indiana, I think, a lot of people don't give him enough credit is well coached. And coaching matters a lot more than you think, especially in football because it's a very team-oriented sport. I mean, I don't want to bring up the Bears, but look at the Bears. We'll talk about that on my recap tomorrow of Week 13. But running past that, we're going Oregon, Washington. Oregon handily won that game, 21-49. Oregon's consensus number one team in the country. I'm not sold on them yet. I think they have some shortcomings and some weaknesses, but we'll see what happens with Oregon throughout the year. I mean, they're going to get a bye in the playoff, and we'll see if they play second round. That will really kind of tell me if they're the real deal or not. Oregon, Washington's having a down year after DeBoer left. They had a lot of seniors, which is also why they're having a down year. So kind of rebuilding back up their team. So we'll see what happens with the Huskies. But they got some things to do. So next game we got is Texas and Texas A&M. This was one of the games I watched fully. Texas looks good, man. I mean, Quinn Ewers is pretty good. They let Arch Manning play a good amount and let him get some running in. And I'll tell you what, that boy quick. I can't believe how quick he is. I guess Cooper is his daddy, and he got some swag unlike the rest of the Mannings. But shout out Peyton, shout out Eli, shout out Cooper. That whole Manning family is a great family, and Texas got the win. A&M really only scored on a pick six that got tipped, so Texas kind of dominated that game the whole time. 17 points. It's a rivalry game again on the road. Can't be mad at a 10-point win. Should have been a 17-point win. But happy to see Texas winning. We'll see what happens when they get to the playoff again. SEC Championship is going to be a tough game, but they should be able to make some things happen. Next game we got is Kansas State, Iowa State. Again, didn't really watch. That was a game I didn't watch. I was driving all day on Saturday, getting back home. So Iowa State with a good win. Looks like an 8-point win. Big 12's pretty wide open. I wish the Buffs would have won that, got in there, but can't lose to Kansas if you want to make the playoffs. So that was a tough loss, unfortunately, for them. But Iowa State, Kansas State, I'll be locked in for that Big 12 championship game this weekend, and we'll give you more of a review for that when the time comes. Next game we got is UNLV, the running Rebels in Nevada. UNLV, good team, Mountain West. Mountain West, I think, is the most slept on non-Power 5 conference, always has been. Champions, Idaho Potato Bowl. This was when I was at University of Wyoming with Josh Allen. But Mountain West got a lot of ballers. We got a lot of players in the NFL and makes a lot of things happen. A couple people in the NFL, Logan Wilson, linebacker for the Bengals, Josh Allen, clearly. Carl Granderson, shout out Carl. Khalil Shakir. Ashton Jonte, that boy good. So we'll see what happens with all these teams. We're going to keep pushing forward, but UNLV with a handy win over Nevada. Running Rebels have been building, whoever the coach is, has been building a good program the last few years, and look forward to continue to see UNLV succeed and move forward. Next game we have was on Saturday was BYU Houston. BYU gets the win. BYU really kind of played themselves out of the playoff. They kind of had an opportunity to play into the playoff, but kind of played themselves out. They got the win against Houston, but Houston hasn't been much this year. So BYU, they had the opportunity this year. They were playing good and kind of just played themselves out of it. But next game we got was Colorado and Oklahoma State. Colorado won 52-0. What Deion's doing, man, everything he said in the press conference when he first got hired is happening today to a T. So shout out Deion Sanders, man, keeping it, making these kids men and really training them to be good citizens and evolving them to be good workers in society and continue to work. Shedeur Sanders, I was outspoken about him before he went to CU because I was like, oh, he's not playing high competition, but he's a baller, man. He's really impressed me this year. Travis Hunter, of course, and boys, they got a lot of players coming in. Hopefully Deion stays there. He continues to build that program because no one loves that. No one is loving that program now more than the whole nation, honestly. Not even just Colorado. I'm from Colorado, so know how much Deion's really polarized and made everyone happy and love and be back on that CU bandwagon. But love to see it. Deion, keep balling, man. Keep going. And Travis Hunter, as much as I love you, you're a baller. I'm going Ashton Jonte for Heisman just because if you don't win, it's never going to go to him again. So, which brings me to my next game, Boise State, Oregon State. Watch the whole game. Watch Ashton Jonte. He's a beast, man. He's on record to break. He's on pace to break the record. What do you want? What do you want from a running back? They're stacking boxes against him. He runs great. He runs hard. Oh, he hasn't played anybody. He played Oregon one of the first weeks of the season. He ran all over them. They almost won that game too. So I don't want to hear that he hasn't played anyone. Boise State's always been a consistent program within the Mountain West. Consistently good program. The Potato Bowl was at Boise. Great stadium. The blue turf is awesome. Smurf turf always. So hopefully Boise State can make some noise. I like the Mountain West. I like Boise State. I like Ashton Jonte. We'll see what happens with the Heisman. Shout out, bro. Hopefully he wins that. Next is Ole Miss and Mississippi State. Ole Miss won game by 12 points. Ole Miss, they've had some misses here and there with some losses that have hurt them. I like Kiffin. I like Jackson Dart. They throw the ball over the field. So we'll see what happens. I think they'll be able to sneak in the playoff. They could make some noise. They beat Georgia earlier this year, but just some tough losses that you can't have if you want to make the playoff. So Ole Miss, Kiffin's been building that program. Kiffin jumped around for a while. He was trying to find his footing and couldn't really find it, but it seems like he's found his footing in Ole Miss, and Ole Miss is starting to turn around. Next game we got is the 8 overtime game, Georgia Tech. Nothing really to say except that was one of the best games I've watched in a long time. Haynes King and Georgia Tech played really good. Carson Beck kind of showed me something at the end of the game there, but they were able to win that game. Some might say some questionable calls. I'm not one to say that because the way the cookie crumbles, you got to play with how it is. Georgia gets a win. People are going to say, that's just – I'm like, a win's a win. It's a rivalry game. Georgia Tech's not a bad team. They beat Miami earlier this year. So good to see Georgia get the win, but I'm not sold on Georgia. Not a big fan of Bobo. His coaching philosophy has always been kind of bad. That's why when he went to CSU tanked for a while. So, yeah. And then the last one was the American game of Memphis and Tulane. Tulane lost. Memphis got a big win. I like Memphis. Memphis was projected to win the conference at the beginning of the year. I don't know really what happened to them this year, but kind of had a down year. But kind of easily won that game. Didn't watch enough of it to tell you, but Memphis beat Tulane by 10 points, so pretty easy game. And then the last couple games I'm going to do are just some of my favorites. So first we'll go with the Colorado State Rams, Utah State. Colorado State played Utah State. Colorado State is where I went to undergrad. I graduated there with a degree. And this is the first year they've been good in a while. 8-4. Love to see the Rams win the game. They scored 29 consecutive points to beat Utah State. For a while, they didn't look very good. 29 points in the fourth quarter. 29 consecutive in the fourth quarter to win that game. So, showed me a lot with Colorado State, 8-4 this year. It's an impressive record. Fort Collins is buzzing about them boys. They got a sophomore quarterback and Farr Nicolosi. It's tough that Horton's out all year. Horton's going to be probably a top 3-round pick, top 4-round pick in the NFL draft. He's a very good player, very, very good. CSU seems to kind of be wide receiver use sometimes. People sleep on CSU, but they've had some very good, productive NFL receivers for a while. Mike G, Preston Williams, people like that. Colorado State, the most famous alumni now is Trey McBride, Arizona Cardinals, probably some might say best tight end in the NFL. Shout out Trey McBride, you're a great dude. Always appreciate you. Glad to see you balling, kid. Keep going. But Rams, big win. Next game is Louisville, Kentucky. Louisville versus Kentucky. Louisville's coach is now Jeff Brom, as I said earlier. Shout out Jeff Brom. You coached my cousin. You gave him an opportunity at West Kentucky, and you were a great coach. Turned around that West Kentucky program, turned around that Purdue program, turned around that Louisville program. Just a program builder, great coach, great guy. Really knows what he's doing and really wants to work hard to make sure these men get the opportunities they should. And then the last game I got is Wyoming, because that was my first school. I always thank you, Wyoming, for building me into the man I am today. Wyoming played Washington State. They won. It's been a really bad down year for Wyoming. I think that was their third win. I think people are starting to realize how good of a coach Coach Bull is. Hope retirement's treating you well, Bull, and everything's going to go well. But Wyoming's one of those programs that is probably inversely affected by the NIL, just because you can kind of transfer whenever. But Wyoming was one of those programs that would continue to build, and you'd have to put in the time and the effort to be good there. But you can see it with they got 3 or 4 starters in the NFL, 4 or 5. I know Dewey Wingard, Mark Arceps, Josh Allen, Carl Granderson, Logan Wilson. That's 5 off the top of my head. There's probably a few more, but shout out Wyoming, good win. Washington State, old coach Jacob Dickert is the coach at Washington State. That's Wyoming's old safeties coach. He was there when I was there, so got to feel good for the Pokes to get that win. But it was an eventful week of college football. It was great to see, and we love college football. It's sad to see the seasons come to the end, both NFL and NCAA. But hopefully we'll keep grinding through that, and I'll keep bringing you videos and keep giving you whatever you guys need. But I appreciate y'all joining along for the journey. I wouldn't be able to do this without you guys, and I just want to continue to build my following. Anything you guys need, please put in the comments below. But this is week 14 of the college football season. This is Dill Talk Sports. We out. God bless. Appreciate y'all. Goodbye.